Hi there, men's dating coach HarryWilmington here, founder of IntrovertDatingSuccess.com. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about the 9 things I wish that I knew when I was starting out as a young dater. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of when I post up new daily videos. For those of you that are struggling with your dating journey and you're not sure that you even want to start it because you're figuring what's the point or why should I even bother or do women want to even date introverts? I was the same way at some point in my life. Back in my early days of trying to date when I didn't know a lot about women, I didn't know about what attracted them, and I didn't really have confidence in myself. The idea that I could possibly someday get to be a decent enough dater to attract women and to get dates was like not in my scope. And you yourself may be going through that right now. So now that I'm a bit older and I've had a lot of dating successes and a lot of dating failures, but a lot of great successes over time, I want to kind of speak to those of you that may be at a point in your life right now where you're not getting the best results and kind of give you some things that I know now that I didn't know that could be beneficial to you guys that are wanting to save yourself a lifelong journey of trying to figure this stuff out. By the way, I do have a program coming out, a coaching program on March 29th called Introvert Dating Success. It's a complete mastery system. It includes 12 weeks of one-on-one personal coaching. It includes videos. It includes a bunch of extras and things that are designed to help you become the kind of dater that you've always wanted to be, the kind that can attract women and remain your natural introverted self while still getting your alone time and while having women that will truly want to be with you. People don't think that it's a skill set, but it really is. Like learning the ins and outs of attraction and how females' minds work and what things are going to be beneficial to a relationship really can be things that you learn. But that's coming out on the 29th. You can sign up for my Girlfriend Roadmap free PDF to be on the emailing list to be notified of any upcoming notices about that. But that's coming out very, very soon. Okay. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing that I wish I'd known about dating back in the day is that getting good at dating very much is a journey. You have to look at it like climbing at the top of a mountain. If you're down here at the bottom base of the mountain in terms of the scope of your ability to date, the idea that you could someday become a guy that knows how to pick up women and knows how to talk to them and knows how to get their numbers and knows how to attract them, knows how to get them on dates could seem very daunting. And that's because people look at it like, oh my God, it's this big, humongous thing. But you have to look at getting good at dating as a journey. And like all journeys, it's going to be a step-by-step thing. So it's not going to be like you're going to read a couple of books and then one day you're going to just be great at dating. It's a thing that can take weeks, months, years before you're comfortable enough in your skin to be able to be on the right side whereby you can do this and it not be such a nerve-wracking thing. But it is worth the journey. You know, I started my journey of dating in like 15, 16 when I had my first girlfriend for 2 weeks. And then I went through my high school years and most of my college years dating and not really getting a lot of good results. And at the point where I decided, you know what, I'm going to make the commitment to actually get good at dating and get good at relating to others, including women, so I can get in relationships, then I knew from the start that even though I don't have all this stuff now, with enough time, with enough repetition, and with enough, studying on my own and reading things and stuff like that, I could eventually get to a point where this could be handled. Regardless of where you are now, this is a thing that you need to get under control and learn, especially if you want to be with somebody long term. But understand, it's not going to happen like right away tomorrow. But day by day, as you're learning new things and trying new things, you will over time build up enough confidence and enough techniques and enough knowledge of dating to get to the point where you can be good at it and be comfortable. The second thing I wish I knew about dating, very importantly, is that you can be yourself and be a successful dater. And I know you might be a guy that has heard time and time again, well, you need to just be yourself. And it's not that you right now as you are is the worst version of yourself. And that's not to say that you can't necessarily work on things to be better. But what it means is that you can be yourself. Women will like you for being an introvert, for being into video games, for, liking things that they might not necessarily like or having certain hobbies that they don't like or do like or whatever. But you got to understand that there is a method to the madness. And a lot of guys aren't very good at portioning out the versions of themselves to be. And instead, they're trying to pour it all onto a woman at one time. And that can be a lot for women to take in. So you trying to give a woman your whole life story and tell her all about you in that first or second date is going to be overkill. You trying to tell her all your innermost, deepest, darkest secrets, that's going to be overkill. And that's not to say you don't ever reveal that stuff or talk about that stuff. But again, it's a process. You can be yourself, but you want to kind of delve it out slowly. And honestly, you want her to have to do a search into you about you. Like, you don't want to give away the whole story because women like mystery. Women like having to ask you questions. They like having to figure out stuff about you. That's the stuff that A, makes dating fun for them, and B, makes them be invested in you, because if she's asking you a bunch of questions, that means she has to constantly be around you in order to get the answers, which means, in effect, part of hers doing that is making her chase you. And as I always say, if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. So yes, you can be yourself. You don't have to try to turn to an extrovert if you're not an extrovert. You don't have to try to take on new hobbies that don't interest you or do things that aren't to your liking just to try to please a woman. You can be yourself and still get women. The third thing I wish you knew about dating is that it goes beyond knowing certain techniques, okay? It also goes into knowing how to handle your emotions. Especially for you guy, dating can be a very emotional thing. I know we get on women about, oh, they're so emotional and this and that, but no, guys, let's be honest. When we hit on that girl and she rejects us, when we ask a girl out on a date and she says, oh, I have a boyfriend, when we've been taking a girl out for a while and she says, oh, I just want to be friends, that hits us in an emotional center that can cause us to want to wreak all havoc on everything. Aside from the whole learning the ins and outs of stuff, you have to also learn how to take rejection. You have to learn what happens when, a woman flakes on a date or can't call you back right away, or all these other things that you as a guy have to emotionally get under control, because you can't be out of control to women, because that's not going to attract them, or it's not going to keep them around very, very long term, okay? So part of learning the dating game, yes, it's very important to learn techniques. But what if you learn a certain technique and you try it on a woman and it doesn't work? Now you have to also work on what your reaction to that is going to be in the moment. Because in the moment, you might think, I'm going to do this technique, it's going to work. And when it doesn't, you might go haywire. You might go ballistic. You might have a reaction that makes her realize why she was right to actually not accept you. So you have to take dating less personally and be more indifferent to outcomes. The program that I have coming out is going to talk a lot about that, about how you can train yourself to not be so affected by what women are doing, whether they say yes or no to you. The fourth thing that I wish I knew about dating is that you don't have to have your whole life figured out in order for women to want to date you. And this is for you guys out there that used to think like me, oh, I don't have a job, I don't have all this money coming in, I'm not too confident in myself, I feel weird trying to do these things, so therefore I'm not gonna be put myself in the dating market or even try until I learn every single thing. Because what could happen is, I used to go on like dating boards and I would, spit out things that I was having problems with, and people would answer back, and I would be going through these boards and learning stuff, and I'd be sitting there learning things, but I wasn't actually like getting any results because I wasn't going out there to practice the things that I was being told could possibly work. And part of the reason that was because I was like, yeah, even though I'm learning these techniques and hearing these things, I don't have these things figured out, so what girl's gonna wanna get me? And as you get older, you start to realize that women will, if you make them feel a certain way, you could be a guy that's like broke, live with his parents, doesn't have a car, and still get women. How do I know? Because I've been all three of those things at any given time in my life, and I was still at those times able to get women. So you really start to learn that like you having your whole life figured out is important, because if you want a relationship to last long term and be a healthy relationship, that it is good to get those things in place, but it's not a requirement for a woman to have feelings for you. And I think if more men knew that, they would start practicing the art of dating while they're still trying to figure their lives out. So that way, by the time they get all this stuff together, then you'll have your stuff together, but you'll also have had all this practice with women to whereby you'll know how to effectively handle a relationship and handle dating when the time comes that you have all that stuff in place, okay? So practice now. Even if you're a guy that's like, whether you're in college or you just got out or you're like, 30 years old and still haven't figured life out, still be practicing these things, because the art of repetition is also going to be helpful to you getting the dating results that you want in the long run. The fifth thing I wish I knew about dating is that sometimes the problem really is me. And I had to learn, what things am I doing that's causing women to be unattractive? Because at the point where I started to attract women, I would notice that I could attract them, get them on a date or two, and then they would suddenly not want to see me anymore. And, the first couple of times that happened, you're just like, oh, women are crazy. They don't know what they want, yada, yada, yada. After like the fifth or sixth time, you really got to look at, okay, I've now had 5 girls that all had crushes on me, and they all went away around the second or third date, and you have to start analyzing what that is. Why is it that's happening? It's not that all these girls are crazy. It's that you were probably doing some stuff that you're not aware of. It could be bringing up certain conversation topics. It could be trying to push sex too soon. It could be trying to suck up to her. It could be begging her for forgiveness about some dumb stuff that didn't really matter. It could be anything, but you have to start really analyzing the pattern that's happening. Because if you start to look at yourself and look at what you're doing, you'll start to see certain things that are repetitive. Like, for example, I know for me, it was like, okay, by the time I get to the third date and I try to go for the kiss, they're suddenly backing off. Why is that? And I realized most of these women on the first or second date were expecting me to kiss them, and I didn't. So by the time we get to the third date, she's now thinking this guy's probably just want to be my friend, and I'm starting to lose attraction. And so by the time I go to kiss them, they've already kind of lost interest because I moved too slow. And I was like, oh, so I got to do that early on because then I'll have a better chance of holding their attraction versus them thinking I'm going to go look somewhere else for a guy that maybe wants to do more physical stuff. And that's just one example. But for you, it could be different. Like I said, you got to really examine that and start to recognize that if you were able to let your ego go, and say, okay, you know what? Let me look internally and see what is going on. You'll start to notice things. You start to be able to catch where you're messing up. And now I'm at the point where now, if I'm talking to a girl and our interaction is going good and all of a sudden it goes bad, I can be like, oh, wait, I said this thing and did this thing. That's why this girl suddenly was turned off. And the more you're able to do that, you'll actually be able to start putting away things that you shouldn't be doing, and you'll do more of the right things, and you'll have more girls that are attracted to you keep that attraction as a result. The sixth thing I wish you knew about dating is that if you're failing, it means you're doing something right. Because if you're not failing, it means that you're not actually trying new things. And it means that you're not allowing yourself to get used to new practices of dating that you may not have been accustomed to before. Okay. So if you're trying a new technique and it fails, well, it really just means that you're not yet accustomed to doing that. So it might not have come out in a way that's natural, but that's fine. The more you do that technique, the more you say this certain thing, the more you do these certain actions, you'll start to feel like it's a more natural thing and you'll fail less. So failure actually becomes a barometer for how much better you're getting at doing certain techniques. You start out not getting a lot of results and then you start getting better results each time, then the less failures you have indicate that you're getting better at it, okay? So don't look at failure as a bad thing. Don't let it be a thing that makes you reset and say, I'm not going to do this thing at all anymore or dating and these women or whatever. Take it as a sign that, you know what? It just means I need to do this thing a bit more and eventually it'll work. Now, I say this with the caveat of if you are doing something after say 10 or 12 times and it hasn't worked consistently, maybe not do that particular thing because it just might not be something that you're accustomed to. For example, I don't really do a whole lot of cold approaches, like me going up to a stranger in public and just trying to start a conversation and talk and hope that it leads to a date. That is the technique that can work for some people. I found for me, it's not my most comfortable way of doing things, so I tend to do things a different way. Now, at parties, I'm great. At parties, when I'm around people that I already know and then there's new people that are in the environment, I can go up to them and start a conversation, and I know the method to the madness to be able to attract them. And that's also in my program, How to Pick Up Women at Parties Around People That You Know. All this to say, you're going to try some things that aren't going to be natural and aren't going to work, but you're going to also try some things that over time will start to feel better and they'll become more natural to who you are, and then you'll get better results. The seventh thing I wish I knew about dating is that I do not have to become a pickup artist. All I have to do is learn how to naturally connect with women. Now, learning the techniques of various pickup artists is not the worst thing in the world because realistically, you may not have an approach game right now that is actually being beneficial to you being able to meet, greet, attract, or keep the interest of women. So the things that pickup artists talk about in terms of, saying certain things or doing certain tricks or whatever, like all that stuff's kind of like peacocking fluff, but some of it does work. And that might be where you need to start in order to be able to get your approach game. So that way you at least are not nervous about the approach. Where pickup artists tend to fail, though, is that they're not necessarily good at the long-term game. And so they try to use pickup skills on the long-term aspects of the dating that ends up not working to their favor. So that's why I say trying to be a pickup artist for a relationship doesn't really work. But learning the techniques of how to talk to women and how to attract them and how to get them engaged in conversations off that initial meeting can actually be beneficial. And especially for you introverted guys out there who have a hard time thinking about what your opener should be or the fact that you don't want to have surface conversations, well, you can learn some of these pickup techniques to learn how to spark a woman's interest. And then from there, you guide the conversation into stuff that's more deep and more personal and more meaningful, okay? But all that to say, no, you do not have to be a pickup artist in order to have women like you long term. You're going to want to be able to build authentic and real connections with women, and that goes beyond just the scope of pickup. But a lot of guys think they got to be pickup artists in order to be able to get women, and that is not the case, okay? Most women out there want a guy that's going to be their authentic self and listen to them, and they can have fun with them, okay? And I'm an introvert, and I still get women, and I don't do hardly any pickup. For example, in my upcoming program, I do talk about how to become more comfortable in your own skin, and also how to use observations in your environment, or if you're doing online dating, in the online dating realm, to be able to spark conversations that are going to be interesting to her, thereby being authentic to her, but also in a way that's fun and engaging. The eighth thing I wish I knew about dating back in the day is that your journey for learning dating stuff is going to be ongoing. I've been dating now since I was 15, like I said. And since I was 21 is when I really started kind of studying the ins and outs of how dating and attraction works. I'm 39 now. Even though I coach men on how to date, even though I've been in my own relationships, even though I know how to connect and engage with women, I still to this day look up new things about women, about attraction, about how connections work, about what women are looking for in relationships, about what I should be asking for in relationships, because it is an ongoing journey. And as you evolve, so too does the information out there about dating also evolve, and you can always be learning new things. So never think that you're going to learn every single thing 100% about dating that you need to know to be 100% great at it. Because the reality is, at best, you'll be like 80% good at this. And there's still gonna be that 20% of times where you slip up, where you make a mistake, and you know what? That is perfectly fine. It is perfectly fine to be able to make mistakes along the way. You just pick yourself back up and say, you know what? That was a mistake that I made. I learned from it, and I know going forward not to do this thing, say this thing, or do whatever action for my future relationship or for my future interaction with this person that I'm trying to get with, okay? So it is gonna be an ongoing journey, but it gets easier. As you study this stuff more, as you get better at it, you'll have to rely less and less on new information, and you'll be able to go off of your history of now what works, just like I now do for you guys. And the ninth thing that I wish I'd known back in the day is that dating does not have to be a solo journey. And I mean that in a sense of learning and being able to get knowledge about dating. Because I very much, like I said, I've advocated for you guys to listen to podcasts, to go to websites, to study up on people that have had the kind of success with dating that you want. But you might also be somebody that needs somebody else to help guide you, somebody that needs a coach, somebody that needs to be able to look through a video program of sorts or read through PDFs or look through materials that's going to really help you to increase the pace at which you're able to learn this information. I did it on my own by myself, but that was not without the help of all these other various gurus that I listened to, people that had dating shows that I would call into and ask for advice. Like I really found in hindsight that it would have been probably a lot faster for me had I just said screw it and go ahead and paid somebody to help coach me through this stuff. Because even if it cost me like, a couple of $1,000, $3,000, $4,000, whatever, I would have had that skill set in the span of like 6 months to a year versus having to really learn the true ins and outs of how this stuff works in a span of like 10 or 12 years. And so the program that I have coming out, part of that is to be able to help shorten your journey along this dating path, because it's going to be helpful to know the ins and outs of dating and what women find attractive and what techniques actually work, how to go on the right kinds of dates, what kind of dates to propose in the first place, what to do when arguments arise, how to get signals from women that indicate that they're ready to move stuff to the next level versus sitting there wondering, should I be doing something now? Should I not be doing something now? Like all those things were very, very bothersome. And so you don't have to go through that. You can very much have somebody in your corner, i.e. me, that will guide you through this process and pathway so that way you can just get this one part of your life knocked out. You already know the stuff you need to do, and then you can focus on your purpose and other stuff, and then know that when women come along, you already have the skills that you need to be able to meet them, attract them, get them on dates, and hopefully lead them into a prosperous relationship, all right? So those are the 9 things that I would have taught myself, and I hope that you, on your dating journey, are able to start, recognizing these things that you need and really doing the things that you need to do in order to get you to the right place. If you want my help with that, my program on March 29th will be very, very beneficial to you guys, and I'll send you more information about that. I'll be talking about it on these shows, but also if you sign up for my free PDF, the Girlfriend Roadmap Checklist, this is kind of like really the precursor to this program because it maps out for you the 10-step process you need to be looking at in terms of trying to go from attracting a woman to getting her into a relationship in a span of like 3 months or so, okay? And then my program that's coming out is going to really do a deep dive into what to do during each of these stages to really solidify her feelings, to help them grow, and to make her want to call you her boyfriend. So hopefully this show has been helpful to you guys so that way you now know some of the things that I wish I'd known that you now know, so you'll have a leg up on even how I was back in the day. If you found the info in this episode to be helpful, please show your support by clicking on the tip jar tab, the link of which can be found at the website and in the description below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on this episode, and catch new episodes right here on YouTube or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to check out these other episodes so you too can learn to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.